20,000 years ago, the world didn't belong to us. It belonged to giants, terrifyingly large animals bigger than anything alive today. But then, almost overnight, they vanished. Giant megafauna that had existed for millennia, all gone. Thus, the clean story is simple. We arrived, we hunted, they died. But when you actually line up the dates, that story starts to fall apart. So did humans really wipe out the Ice Age giants? Or is the truth far more terrifying? Hi guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Michael. I have a degree in ancient history, and on this channel, we discuss the unexplainable mysteries of our past. Let's get into it. Wind the clock back 20,000 years. You're standing on the icy Mammoth Steppe. Wind is scraping across frozen grass, and you see movement in the distance. A herd of woolly mammoth, each one over 6 tons, curved tusks sweeping forward like ivory blades. When they move, the ground shudders, but they are not alone. Somewhere out there, low in the grass, is a cave lion, much larger than modern lions, built for open plains, silent, coordinated, watching the herd, maybe watching you. And if you're in North America, something even bigger dominates the horizon, the short-faced bear. When it stands upright, it towers over 3 meters tall, long-legged, massive. If it approaches, you don't negotiate, you retreat, fast. This world isn't just predators and prey, it's giants. Across the plains moves the huge woolly rhinoceros, thick hide, forward curving horn, 2 tons of muscle built for impact. In Siberia roams the so-called unicorn, a massive Ice Age rhino crowned with a single enormous horn. And in the Americas, waiting in ambush is Smilodon, forelimbs like grappling hooks, serrated canines nearly 20 centimeters long, built not for chase, but for the kill. This was not a gentle environment. It was crowded, competitive, dangerous, and small bands of humans walked straight into it. But now, here's the strange part. Around this time, most of these giants disappear. Across multiple continents, within a geological blink, the mammoths, the giant bears, the saber-toothed cats that had existed for hundreds of thousands of years are suddenly gone. And in many regions, their disappearance roughly coincides with something else, us, which has led to one of the cleanest stories in prehistory. Humans arrived, humans hunted, megafauna vanished. Case closed, right? Except when you actually look at the dates, it isn't that clean at all, and that's where this story becomes far more interesting. By the way, if you want the ideas that don't fully make it into these videos, I share them in my private email briefing. It's free to join, just click the link down below. But let's talk about this clean story. How does it go? Well, it's something like this. For hundreds of thousands of years, megafauna dominate the planet. But then, modern humans expand out of Africa. We enter Europe. We enter Australia, we enter the Americas, and shortly after we arrive, the giants disappear. According to the traditional view, humans spread across North America around the end of the last ice age, and within a few thousand years, mammoths, giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, and short-faced bears are gone. In Australia, humans supposedly arrived roughly 50,000 years ago, and many large animals vanished not long after that. The pattern seems obvious. A new predator enters ecosystems that have never encountered something quite like it. Highly intelligent, cooperative, tool-using, strategic. We hunt large animals. They have slow reproductive rates, and their populations collapse. This idea is often called the overkill hypothesis, and it's still supported by many scientists today. In its strongest form, it's sometimes described as some kind of prehistoric blitzkrieg. Humans spread rapidly and hunt megafauna faster than they can adapt. It's neat, it's intuitive, and it fits what we know about recent human history. Because in the last few centuries, humans absolutely have driven species to extinction, and there is real evidence of Ice Age hunting. Butchered bones, stone points embedded in ribs, kill sites associated with mammoths. Humans clearly hunted these animals. So the question isn't whether we did. The question is whether that single variable, human arrival, explains everything. Because the old story relies on this simple pattern. But when you start lining up the dates, that pattern begins to fracture. Put it this way. If the old idea were true, then the timeline should look predictable. Humans arrive, a short delay, and then megafauna disappear across continents. But when you actually map the dates, the pattern isn't uniform. Start with Eurasia. According to the orthodox narrative, modern humans entered Europe around 45,000 years ago, although Neanderthals may have already been hunting large animals for hundreds of thousands of years before that. But yet, megafauna don't instantly collapse even when we arrive. Mammoths persist for tens of thousands of years alongside sapiens. In some remote regions, isolated populations survive until around only 4,000 years ago. That's not a blitzkrieg. But now look at North America. We used to think humans spread widely across the continent roughly only 13,000 years ago, and many iconic megafauna do disappear around that time. However, we now have evidence that humans have been in the Americas almost twice as long as we thought. White Sands footprint shows humans were here 23,000 years ago, at least. In fact, there is evidence of humans hunting mammoths in America 37,000 years ago. And really, we have no idea how much further back. So instead, in America too, humans coexisted with megafauna for thousands and thousands of years. Meanwhile, in Australia, there is literally no evidence that humans hunted megafauna at all. The sole case that pointed in this direction was recently disproved by a study last year. So if humans are the sole trigger, why isn't the pattern clean and consistent? Why do some megafauna survive thousands of years alongside human populations? And why do extinctions instead cluster in periods of extreme climate instability? When you zoom out, instead of a single global extinction wave triggered by human arrival, you instead see staggered declines, regional variation, and long overlap. That doesn't remove humans from the story, but it complicates it. But here's another part that rarely gets emphasized: the sheer problem of scale that seems to get ignored in the overkill explanation. Before we even get into extinction models, just pause for a second and picture the numbers. We tend to visualize Ice Age megafauna as rare creatures, a lone mammoth against a snowy backdrop. But these weren't isolated anomalies, they were ecosystems. At their peak, mammoths ranged from Western Europe across Siberia and into North America, thousands and thousands of miles of continuous habitat, known as the mammoth steppe. Now, population estimates are difficult, but conservative ecological modelling suggests that across Eurasia and North America combined, mammoth populations could have numbered in the hundreds of thousands, possibly more, at various points during the late Pleistocene. Not dozens, not hundreds of thousands of 6-ton animals, each requiring vast amounts of food, up to 150 kilograms of vegetation per day. Now add woolly rhinoceros to the same landscape, and then consider the predators: Smilodon, short-faced bears, cave lions. These weren't rare curiosities, they were apex predators embedded in functioning food webs. Then there were giant ground sloths, some weighing over 3,000 kilograms. There were herds of steppe bison in the millions. There were enormous deer like Irish elk, with antlers spanning over 3.5 meters across. This was abundance. Now contrast that with human population estimates. Early human populations were meant to be tiny. We're not talking about millions sweeping across continents. We're talking about small, mobile bands, perhaps thousands, maybe tens of thousands, across entire land masses. But North America alone spans millions of square miles. So how do relatively sparse hunter-gatherer groups eliminate dozens of large species across an entire continent? The overkill model assumes efficiency, that humans were so effective, so coordinated, that even low population densities could drive huge continent-wide extinction. But that requires something important: sustained pressure. And yet, when we look at the archaeological record, kill sites exist, but they are very limited. We do not have evidence of mass slaughter for most of these extinct species. Some species show direct hunting evidence, but others don't. But it does mean the scale of impact is harder to quantify than this clean story suggests. So here's the scale tension: sparse bands of hunter-gatherers versus continent-spanning populations of multi-ton megafauna. For humans alone to drive continent-wide extinction, those populations would need to expand rapidly, maintain consistent hunting pressure, target slow reproducing breeding adults, and do so across millions of square kilometers, and do it repeatedly, species after species. Is that impossible? No. But when you actually visualize the scale, the sheer biomass on those plains, it becomes, in my view, a huge reach based on very limited evidence. Because wiping out the last mammoth on a shrinking island is one thing, erasing a continent full of giants, that's another entirely. So the idea of a simple, swift, human overkill starts to feel less clean.
So humans and megafauna didn't just overlap briefly. In many regions, they lived side by side for thousands of years. And on top of this, the sheer scale makes the overkill hypothesis very unlikely.
Thus, that forces a more uncomfortable question. Were humans the cause, or did something else happen? Something far more devastating? Because once you acknowledge long-term coexistence, the story stops being humans arrive, giants fall, and starts becoming something changed at the end of the last ice age. And that something may not have been just us.
To understand what changed, you have to understand how unstable the end of the last ice age really was.
Here's where we have to zoom out, because the end of the ice age was not a gentle thaw, it was a climatic convulsion. We tend to picture melting glaciers and gradual warming, a smooth transition from ice to forests, but that's not what happened. Ice core data from Greenland shows that around 12,900 years ago, temperatures in parts of the northern hemisphere plunged back toward near glacial conditions in what we call the Younger Dryas. In some regions, the shift was measured not in millennia but in decades, a human lifetime. And then, roughly 1200 years later, the planet lurched back into rapid warming, just as abruptly. This was not background change, it was ecological shock. And now look at the extinction curve. Across the world, between roughly 13,000 and 10,000 years ago, the majority of large mammals over 44 kilograms disappear. Mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, American lions, short-faced bear. The collapse clusters around the same window as this climatic whiplash. That can't be a coincidence, because the Younger Dryas did not simply cool the planet, it rearranged ecosystems. Ecosystems these megafauna relied on. Grasslands contracted and fragmented, forest belts shifted hundreds of kilometers, hydrological systems changed, wetlands expanded in some regions and dried in others, sea levels swallowed coastal plains that had supported rich grazing corridors, habitats broke apart, and fragmentation is lethal for megafauna. When their populations become isolated, genetic diversity collapses. When food webs destabilize, the largest animals feel it first. When winters lengthen or summers dry unexpectedly, species that require massive daily caloric intake have no margin for error. This was not the first warming cycle that these animals had survived, but this transition was so unusually abrupt and so unusually chaotic, it may have killed them off.
Now compare that to the human explanation. To argue that small human populations alone eliminated dozens of species, many weighing several tons across millions of square kilometers, in just a few centuries, requires assuming sustained, continent-wide overhunting pressure with remarkable efficiency and consistency.
We still don't know what caused the Younger Dryas, but it was obviously devastating. So which scenario requires fewer assumptions? A handful of low-density hunter-gatherer bands single-handedly dismantle entire ecosystems filled with apex predators and multi-ton herbivores, or a violently unstable climate system fragments habitats, collapse continent-wide food chains, and pushes already slow-breeding giants past ecological tipping points? It seems pretty obvious to me. Yes, humans almost certainly did hunt these animals, that's not controversial, but the extinction pulse aligns strikingly with the climate chaos, and the arrival date of humans no longer aligns. So if you're looking for a primary driver of mass megafaunal extinction, it makes far more sense to start with the climate shock that reshaped entire continents than with small bands of newly arrived humans armed with stone points. Because the end of the Ice Age was not a stable world disrupted by people, it was a destabilized world, already falling apart.
So where does that leave us? Well, the orthodox story simply doesn't hold.
The timing varies. Coexistence lasted thousands of years, the climate was very chaotic, and population scale raises serious questions. So what actually makes sense? Well, the strongest model really does point towards climate instability as the primary driver. Not because humans were absent, but because the scale of ecological disruption lines up with the scale of extinction. And here's the uncomfortable detail. Human populations were also hit. The Clovis culture in North America disappears from the archaeological record right as the megafauna vanish. So if humans were such an unstoppable ecological force, why were they shrinking at the exact same time? Overkill assumes demographic strength, expansion, sustained pressure, large coordinated hunting populations spreading across the entire continent. But the Younger Dryas was not a time of expansion, it was a time of contraction. The same shock that was hitting mammoths and mastodons was hitting people, which raises a fundamental question. What caused it? The Younger Dryas was not a minor cold snap. It may have been a worldwide ecological trauma, a bottleneck event, a period where carrying capacity dropped sharply, where food webs restructured, where both prey and predator populations fell below viable thresholds. In that context, humans are not the sole executioners of a stable world. They are one more species trying to survive a rapidly collapsing one. What caused the Younger Dryas and how severely it impacted human populations is a story for another time. But the failure of the overkill hypothesis should be a warning, a reminder that we often create simple, digestible narratives about the past and present them as fact, when really we are trying to force a chaotic, incomplete record into a story that feels neat enough to be true.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing to my channel down below. Don't forget to join my private email briefing, and I'll see you next time.